Hello. This Theory of Knowledge presentation is going to be on the ethics of art by Garrett Pendergast. Now, the real-life situation we are starting off with is John Williams' composition of the movie soundtrack to Star Wars. Williams took a lot of inspiration from other classical pieces and incorporated these themes and leitmotifs into his music. Specifically, we are going to be looking at Williams' piece known as the Dune Sea of Tatooine and comparing that to Igor Stravinsky's The Rite of Spring, The Sacrifice. Now, the situation comes from the fact that these two musical pieces are almost identical in the segment I'm about to show you. And you shall hear that as we begin now. Now, that was John Williams' The Dune Sea of Tatooine. Up next, I'm going to show you, or allow you to listen to, Igor Stravinsky's The Rite of Spring, The Sacrifice. Now, you may ask yourself, what's the problem here? The problem is the fact that these two songs sound almost the exact same at this point in time in the music. We, in this case, are using sensory perception to hear the notes being played, and we are figuring out that these notes that are being played are really the same thing as it goes across the two songs. And you may reason, or we may reason, that this is unethical. And the fact that these two songs are sounding the exact same doesn't feel right. Now you may ask yourself why. The reason why is because of plagiarism. Plagiarism is the term given to the action of stealing someone's intellectual property, i.e. any work, any musical thoughts, any pictures, any intellectual property, and calling it your own. Now, may you ask, is it ethical? Is plagiarism ethical? Plagiarism is not ethical, as one who plagiarizes something is taking the property of someone else and using it for their own good, without giving credit to the original owner, of this piece of work. Now, this idea of plagiarism and ethicalness leads us to our central knowledge question. Over the many disciplines of art, is there a single ethical standard that is upheld? A single ethical standard is being under one standard. Now, the ethical standard would be based off of course, ethics. Ethics are coming from the idea of copyright. Copyright is the legal form of essentially protecting it against plagiarism. It states that one person has the right to their own intellectual property, and they have the right to make sure that it stays their own. This copyright provides the ethical backbone for art, as it makes sure that everyone's property is under their own control. Now, we have to talk about the disciplines of art as areas of knowledge. It's important to realize that many of these that art is not just one thing. Art is music, art is theater, art is literature, art is fine art. It is a composition of many, many, many different mediums. And every medium uses sensory perception through the ears and eyes to observe this art and to take into all this information that they are gathering. And the sensory perception allows observers to figure out if there is an ethical issue at hand. Now, to move into Claim 1. Claim 1 is the Kylie Jenner copyright controversy. The discipline we're looking at specifically is under fine art, and the problem at hand is that there are two different pictures. The first picture that was made is Temptation Neon. Temptation Neon is of a lip surrounded by neon, with its teeth biting the lower half of it, and there seems to be makeup flowing down. Now, Kylie Jenner's picture, or take on this, or plagiarism, if you will, is just that, except it's a lighter shade of pink. This is an ethical issue, as Kylie Jenner did not credit the person who wrote this, and that is an issue, as the person who originally painted or created Temptation Neon did not get any credit for it. And this Temptation Neon, the artist of Temptation Neon, sent Kylie Jenner and sued her and sent her for court for copyright infringement. And this is important, as an observer of fine art, one can use their senses to observe the fact that there may be an ethical dilemma in this case. Ethical dilemmas would come from their using their senses, as in looking at something and saying, hey, this seems very similar to something else I've seen before. Probably I shouldn't support that artist at the time, or the picture that I may be observing. And with the sensory perception, as we look at other pieces of artwork and making sure that they are their own thing, that they are their own piece of work, and abiding by that rule of thumb of a ethical boundary, we can learn that there is an ethical standard in fine art. People expect to see original art, and people expect to know that the art that they have put out there is being respected as an original piece of art. And using our senses, using our senses and using reason, we can figure out when these occurrences of unethical behavior are occurring. And it is important to note that this standard does apply in fine art, even though it may be different in other segments. Now, Claim 2. Claim 2 is going to be talking about Ghostbusters versus I Want a New Drug. This claim, this ethical issue, is coming from the fact that the opening guitar riff for Ghostbusters is almost identical to the opening guitar riff for I Want a New Drug. Ray Parker Jr., who wrote Ghostbusters, was then sued by Huey Lewis of the Newses for this exact issue. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to allow you to hear the opening guitar riff for both Ghostbusters and I Want a New Drug. So here is Ghostbusters. And now, here's I Want a New Drug. These two songs are very, very, very similar, and we can use our hearing senses to understand that this is not very ethical at all. And this is a key part of music as a discipline of art, to establish an ethical boundary, is that people can listen and hear and understand that when one piece of music is not exactly original, people know about it. You can use your senses, you can use your reasoning to understand that these issues, these ethical problems, are very much alive. And the ethics, especially during contemporary issues, they're much easier to track down and solve. One can easily understand and figure out when there is an ethical issue. Now, to conclude, the ethical standard that spans across so many disciplines of art as an area of knowledge does exist, but it's to an extent. Many issues of plagiarism, as we see the ethical push of plagiarism, it's present, but it's not the standard. There are many aspects and times where plagiarism is accepted, and it is accepted into society, which is an issue. However, is there an ethical standard? Yes. Is it perfect? No. But does it work? More or less. It provides a basis of right and wrong within the arts, and that is very important, and that is very key to understand. Thank you.